I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. There's another paid request, this time from my dear friend Mike, OCPcommunications. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting pretty much any other type of videos or topics or anything in between, randomness, out of the blueness, re-reviews, whatever, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, this is a review for a film called The Wrong Guys. Now, The Wrong Guys... it sounded familiar. It's directed by a guy named Danny Bilson. Now, I think it's the first film he directed. He was more known for writing. Him and this guy named Paul DeMeo, they wrote Trancers, the Tim Thomerson film. Which is funny because Tim Thomerson is in this film. As well as Art LaFleur. He was the dad in the Blob remake from 1988. He was the guy who puts the newspaper down, goes, ribbed. That's Art LaFleur. He was in Trancers. He's in this in a small part. But yeah, the two of them wrote Trancers, and they would go on to write The Rocketeer, which I thought was cool. And mainly it's about a group of guys who have a reunion. They were Cub Scouts when they were kids. One guy gets them all back together. We're going to go out camping. The other guys are like, but they decide to go eventually. And then while they're going out camping, a bunch of things happen. Bullies from the past come in to fuck with them, as well as there's an escaped convict or two, or technically three. And the film is decent. Maybe like a... And yeah, I don't do a lot of star ratings, but I've been kind of itching to do so. Maybe like a 3 out of 5 star movie. Like, it's a decent film. It's not laugh out loud hilarious. But I think I was okay with the film for the most part because of the cast. Now, some people might not know anybody in this cast, so they might not get nearly enough of the entertainment factor as I did out of this. But for me, it's okay. The stars Louie Anderson. Louie Anderson, he had a cartoon where he voiced the main character. He's popped up in movies like Coming to America. He was one of the guys working at McDowell's. And then he showed up in the sequel, Sally. Louie Anderson is our lead. Part of the group growing up, Richard Lewis, who is in Wagons East with John Candy. He's been in a few other stuff as well. I think he was on I want to say he was on a TV show with Jamie Lee Curtis for a few years, back in the 90s. I forget what it was called, though. You also have Richard Belzer. Richard Belzer, I think people would know him more for his TV work. And I think he was on Law and Order. I've seen him in a few other stuff in movies. Plus, there's one thing in particular where Richard Belzer hosted this talk show. Hulk Hogan and Mr. T were on there. Richard Belzer was saying some stuff, and Hulk Hogan's like, "Let me show you a chokehold." And immediately Richard Belzer got knocked out and fell to the ground. And he fell so hard he hit his head. And so when he got up, his head was bleeding. And apparently he sued, and I guess apparently got a shitload of money. Type in Richard Belzer Hulk Hogan. It's a very interesting watch, so to speak. Tim Thomerson, he's one of the group. I forgot what this one guy's name was. Franklyn Ajaye. Which I swear I've seen him before. I think Franklyn Ajaye, he's been in some bit parts. I think he was a detective at the end of The Burbs. And I think he might have been in Car Wash from back in the day in the 70s. And I thought the cast, for the most part, worked well together. I mean, it wasn't the funniest of jokes, but they seemed like to be having a good time with each other. Tim Thomerson playing more of like a surfer dude type. I'm a big Tim Thomerson fan, so that was entertaining to see. Because I really liked him in Doll Man, the Transfers films, Uncommon Valor. Let's say Richard Lewis, more of the neurotic type of guy. Richard Belzer, more of the guy that trying to think of the ladies all the time. Franklyn Ajaye, sort of the more sensible, let's talk it out of the group. And it shows these characters as kids and the Cub Scouts. Then it shows where they are in life. Like Louie Anderson is stuck in the past, living with his mom. Richard Lewis is like a dentist, I believe. And he's a bit neurotic. Richard Belzer, he makes accessories, particularly women's accessories like belts. Tim Thomerson, I think he's like a surfer guy with this lady, this girlfriend who thinks she's psychic. Franklyn Ajaye is a radio DJ. And the other familiar people, the two bullies, one of them is Brion James. And Brion James, I mean, he was the villain in the horror show. He's been Blade Runner. He's one of the replicants in Blade Runner with Rutger Hauer and you know, he's the guy who tossed the Decker, time to die. He's at the very beginning of Blade Runner when they're doing the interview. Let me tell you about my mother. You know, that's Brion James. He's been in a lot of stuff. 48 Hours, another 48 Hours. Tango and Cash, tons of movies. May he rest in peace. It was fun to see him as one of these two bullies. And he has a nice little thing where you get that there's a little bit more to him. Like, there's actually kind of a sweet part of this character that he actually did want to be in the Cub Scouts back in the day. And he's very into that. And then the other guy with him, I recognize him, is a guy named Biff Manard, another Transfers alumni. He played the guy Hap Ashby, the baseball player, and the guy who Tim Thomerson pretty much has to protect during the film Transfers. So, yeah, as a guy who's a big fan of Transfers, it was kind of nice to see almost a Transfers reunion. Like, oh shit, this Hap Ashby. There's, you know, Tim Thomerson, and then Art LaFleur is in this restaurant as the manager in like a scene or two. Now the bad guys, 3 criminals, 2 are not really bad guys. One is Ernie Hudson from this movie, as well as Ghostbusters. The other is, I think, Timothy Van Patten, the main bully in class of 1984. I believe that was him. Could be wrong. And the lead bad guy is John Goodman. John Goodman from Roseanne, Arachnophobia, Matinee, tons of other stuff. And that's what I mean. As a guy who grew up in the 80s and 90s and recognizes all these people, it was fun to see them all in one movie. And again, the script, the direction has seen better days, as in, I'll be honest, when I think of campy movies, I would say I got more genuine laughs out of The Great Outdoors with John Candy. Maybe even with Without a Paddle with Matthew Lillard and Seth Green and Dax Shepard. But again, the characters, the actors seem likable enough. They seem to work rather well together. For the most part, each one does their thing well for what it has to be. Richard Lewis being the neurotic. Even when he's packing, I'll pack it. Should I take the coat? No, I'll pack it. I'll get off the plane, I'll get pneumonia. No, I'll wear it. Oh, but if I wear it, I get there, it'll be so hot, and they'll mock me for wearing this. I mean, he's that type of guy. Richard Belzer, the sort of guy who thinks he's a ladies' man. I've never been so insulted. Stick around, babe. The night is young. That type of character. Franklyn Ajaye. No, I know what I recognize him from. Sorry. My mistake before. He was the guy in Stir Crazy. So he might not have been in Car Wash. I apologize. Stir Crazy. If you know that movie, you know the scene where Richard Pryor, while in prison, he's in sort of the hospital part of the prison, and there's a guy next to him saying, oh, some Korean doctor made a mistake and took away my balls or something. And don't get him. And then an Asian guy pops up, and the guy says, that's the guy that worked on me. And then Richard Pryor freaks out. The guy he's talking to, that's Franklyn Ajaye. I knew, it just popped in my head. I'm like, that's who it is. And it's a very silly film. I mean, the two bully characters, they see these guys ready to camp. It's like, you know what? We used to bully these guys when kids. Let's go up there with them. And there's silly hijinks. The Brion James and Biff Manard, their car gets screwed up by a squirrel. John Goodman and Ernie Hudson, them are at a restaurant. And John Goodman gets pissed because the waiter serves him the food, and it's the food in a face, and John Goodman's like, if I wanted to eat a face, I would eat yours. I did not want pancakes. Well, sir, we have the state thing, and or this country thing. Well, we have the state thing. I wanted French toast, not pancakes. Like, John Goodman, he's a lot of fun as the villain. He's not sleepwalking. He's committed to the role, as silly as the film is, and he brings in a lot of energy to it. Maybe more energy than the film deserves, but you know what? I commend that compared to fucking Bruce Willis sleepwalking through every film he does nowadays. Hey, my name's Bruce Willis. Did the paycheck come in? Okay, I'm glad I got the paycheck. Or Steven Seagal. Hey, do we have to be here? Yeah, can you have my double do my fight scenes for me? Says me like, I guess technically this is probably decently young in John Goodman's career. Trying to think what he had done before this. But again, the way the characters interacted, I think Tim Thomerson talks to Richard Belzer and says, you look like a pimp at a slumber party. Or they have this story when they were kids about this guy with an axe in one arm, and the guys are missing at one point. Hey, they're probably out by the fire. And Richard Lewis goes, no, they're probably in the fire. Okay, when we go over there, you come in with an axe. What? What, am I Paul Bunyan's cousin? I'm not going to do that. Now, like I said, one of the issues I have with the film is sadly with the lead. Louie Anderson does not work as a lead for me. I'm sorry. With that little voice that he has, and oh no, and I don't know, guys. Yeah, he played a cartoon character, and the character was a kid. I think it's Life with Louie, I believe is the name. As a star of a live-action film, there's a reason why he did not become... Like, if you had... which I know is redundant because he already did a film like this, I think the same year. John Candy. That's what one of the major things that makes The Great Outdoors work. John Candy. John Candy played that role very well. And, granted, it'd be redundant because they're both camping movies, but I'm just saying, if I had John Candy in the lead of this, instead of Louie Anderson, or I'm trying to think of, like, who else it could have been, like, that I think would have helped the film a lot. Because, again, this is our lead character. This is the guy that gets the band together, the group, the reunion, that goes out there, that's kind of the leader of this group. Louie Anderson, again, with his voice, his demeanor, like I said, there's a reason why he did not get a lot of lead roles. There's a perfectly good reason for that. Now, this film came out, it bombed badly, critically. It barely, yeah, I think it does have a DVD. I don't think it has a Blu-ray or anything. It's a film really nobody remembers or recognizes. It's for free on YouTube as well as Tubi TV. But yeah, it was for free on YouTube. Came out in 1988, like I mentioned. And yeah, it's not a comedy classic. And as I see her, I'm like, who else could have been in that role as the lead? And I'm trying to think, like, 1988, like, who else he had. That's why, whether it be a Robin Williams, a Billy Crystal, a Richard Pryor, or Eddie Murphy, or John Candy, there's a reason why they stood the test of time. Even if a film didn't do the best, people still use them again and again. At times would get a successful venture of a movie, but even if it doesn't, it's like they still have a certain it factor, a certain talent, or likability, or something to hone in on. And even if it's a film that's not the best, you can maybe appreciate them, or like them, or enjoy them, their charm, their charisma, their personality, their persona, all the above, or a combination of it. Louie Anderson doesn't have that. And in my opinion, that was the biggest mistake this film had. Now, yeah, it could have used a couple additional writing of the script. Again, like Richard Lewis, Richard Belzer, Tim Thomerson, I didn't mind them. Had fun with them. John Goodman as the villain, again, had fun with them. But, yeah. He's not the only thing, but Louie Anderson is one of the major things. I'm like, can we get someone else as the lead? Would that be okay? Again, just saying. But I would say that and the finale and some pieces of the... Again, it's not as funny as it could be. It's alright, like, amusing. It's not hilarious. It's amusing, lightly amusing. The finale, spoiler alert for those who don't want to know the finale. They go, each one have their little ups and downs. Like Richard Belzer and Tim Thomerson go to this women's retreat, which is a fun scene because they pretend to be someone they're not. And then they think they're dating these two hot women, but these two not hot women. And one of them's like, I'm going to ride you. How the hell? I'm going to ride you like a Harley on a bad piece of road. And like, yeah, no thanks. Like, the way they played off was, I thought, rather funny. Probably un-PC in today's age. But fuck it. Take the joke. I don't know what to tell you. And there's a point they all get to get. Or there's another point where Franklyn Ajaye was a bit scared, so he got a pill from Richard Lewis as one of those pills that he just was passed out asleep. So while John Goodman, who thinks these guys are FBI guys, he's shooting the whole place down, he leaves. The rest come back and they find Franklyn. They think he's dead, but he wakes up. Oh, whoa. Wait, what the hell happened here? Like, the way that reaction happened, I thought made me... it made me chuckle a bit. I like the way that played out. But the finale, I just thought was kind of lame. And what it comes down to is they're chased, they build a raft. Tim Thomerson goes down a waterfall and a pretty bad effect. Tim Thomerson finally gets to his station. He's got to figure out who to call. The other people, they make a trap. They get John Goodman, but then Biff, Manard, one of the two adult bullies, they fuck up. John Goodman gets the gun again, tells all of them to go into the mud, and then out of the blue, our characters' moms pop in. The moms pop in to beat up John Goodman, and Tim Thomerson comes in. I didn't know who else to call. And that's kind of, it's kind of an amusing idea to call their moms. I mean, I'm kind of chuckling because of that, but it's just, then after that, they get this whole hubbub of, they're saluted for doing such a great job in capturing this man and these criminals. I'm like, they didn't really do anything to deserve all these accolades. Give the accolades to the moms. Like, these guys didn't really do anything. Like, if it was one of those where each one used their own, like, if each of them had something specific they did in Cub Scouts, and as an adult, they had to figure out how to do that again, hone into their childhood to accomplish that, and together, like, you just still have, the bullies think they're going to do it, they did it, they fuck up, but then our main characters, they get together, they get in a huddle, they make a plan, and each one do their own thing to get John Goodman where they need to and capture him. I think that would have been a bit more satisfying in the story, and then all the accolades that they're getting at the end be a bit more deserving. Plus, I mean, you can still make that fun, depending on what kind of, for example, Richard Belzer, that thing with the belt, which they bring up when he's a kid, and he makes that, and you can have something to do with that belt. Or he even takes the belt and whips John Goodman a bit and runs off, and maybe Richard Lewis. Hey, baby. Hey, why don't you relax with this? This will calm you down. And, like, gives him some of those pills, so now Jim Goodman's a bit groggy, and I don't know. I just think there's a bit more that you could have had the team themselves use more of their Cub Scout know-how to defeat John Goodman's. Because all they did was run away. Like, they ran away. Granted, they built the raft. They ran away some more. And then the one trap they tried to make, the bullies made when they were kids, not the Cub Scouts. And then they were just ready to die, and then the mom came in. Like I said, I just wish there was a bit more to that. Like, even, like, Without a Paddle even did that bit a little bit better. Where it felt like the characters, accomplished more than, what these characters did. I know that's stupid to complain about in a silly comedy, but I don't know, just some little parts of that story kind of would make it work a bit better, make it a little bit more satisfying, at least for me. Even in a silly story, it's still a story. And that's the thing with comedies. Yeah, it could be as silly, as goofy as a story can be, but it's still a story that needs to be told. And, a comedy that works well remembers that. So you have Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which is a very silly movie when you look at it, but it still remembers the story of culmination of, doing the book report, and then having a nice bit with George Carlin's character, and the princesses, and that culminating at the end. And especially in Boulder's Journey, where they come back and they each got a kid, and You see that they've accomplished their story until Bill and Ted 3 undid all that. Or See No Evil, Hear No Evil, which I'm looking at the Blu-ray right there. One of my favorite comedies. The very, nice bit at the end where the two of them do accomplish getting the bad guys. They do certain things here and there, and then they share a nice moment at the end. I still don't mind the story as well as the comedy. Here, again, I just think that the finale could have been done a bit better to my liking. So, and again, have a different lead. I think it would have been not a classic, but, a good comedy, and then right now it's just an okay. It's an okay movie. It's alright. It's decent. It's passable. I've seen much, much worse. As I said, for the most part, the cast, they work rather well together. And like I said, it's nice to see these familiar faces. And it didn't seem like that long of a movie. Yeah, I wasn't really that bored with it. But, it doesn't go up there, bypass, the Great Outdoors or even other camping movies or, well, other comedies in general. So, I wouldn't call this an underrated gem or anything. But it's alright. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.